all set, Olivia?
No, I just need Jamie to share to let me record.
Okay.
Should be good, Olivia.
Recording in progress.
Okay, I'm recording now.
Great. Good evening. My name is Peter Basserman, and I am Chairman of Branford's Inland Wetland Commission. I will now open the regularly scheduled meeting of the Commission. Today is April 23rd, 2026. It is now 7 o'clock. This evening's meeting will be conducted as a virtual meeting using the Zoom conference platform. It is being held in accordance with Connecticut Public Act 22.3 and the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses regulations for the town of Branford. Documents referenced during the meeting are available on the town's OpenGov portal or the agency's webpage. The final agenda for tonight's meeting was filed April 21st and is posted on the town website. Links to the material meeting for tonight is included on the agenda. Branford Community Television is recording this evening's meeting. As a reminder for those speaking at this evening's proceeding, please be conscious of positioning your camera so that your face is visible on the recording. To ensure an accurate and complete record of discussions, each time a statement is made, please indicate your name before articulating the comment. This applies to any party wishing to participate. You can use the raise your hand feature in your desire to speak, and please consider muting the microphone when not speaking. This commission has the responsibility and authority to apply Connecticut statutes and Branford's inland wetland and water courses regulations to matters it considers. This commission's role is limited to the protection, preservation, and regulation of inland wetlands and water courses and any land use activities that would likely have a significantly adverse impact on them. The commission cannot consider matters outside of those areas defined in the regulations and seeks to apply those regulations consistently and uniformly in its considerations. We'll now take a roll call of the commissioners on this evening's call. Make sure we have a quorum. Announce your name, please indicate by saying present. Commissioner Boda?
Commissioner Boda, oh, you got me?
I do.
Okay, Commissioner Boda present.
Commissioner Mirsky?
Commissioner Mirsky present.
Commissioner Armstrong?
Commissioner Armstrong present.
Commissioner Sotomayor?
Commissioner Sotomayor present.
Commissioner Begeman?
Commissioner Begman present.
Okay. Let's see. I'll now indicate the presence for staff. Director Jamie Frederick.
Present.
Environmental Associate Sandberg.
Present.
And I don't think we have Heather with us. Is that correct, Jamie? We don't have Heather with us?
Correct.
Okay. We have enough commission members present for a quorum. All commissioners are seated and able to vote. Does the staff have any changes, additions, or deletions to this evening's agenda?
No.
Okay, first up, we have the approval of the minutes of April 9th, 2026. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
This is Commissioner Begman. I'll make a motion that we approve the regularly scheduled meeting of minutes of May 9th, 2026.
Looking for a second.
Commissioner Boda, I'll second.
Any further discussion on those minutes? Okay, take a roll call vote for approving those minutes. Commissioner Begeman?
Commissioner Begman, aye.
Commissioner Sotomayor?
I was not present during the last meeting, and I did not get a chance to watch the video, so I have to abstain from voting to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
Okay, Commissioner Armstrong?
Commissioner Armstrong, aye.
Commissioner Mirsky?
Commissioner Mirsky, aye.
Commissioner Boda?
Commissioner Boda, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. Minutes are approved. Next up, applications for review. We have inland wetland 26-9. However, that is tabled and continued to May 14th, 2026. BRIW 26-2 is the next item, 83
Chairman?
Laurel Hill.
This is Commissioner Boda. I am gonna recuse myself on BRI 26-2. That is in my neighborhood, and I have stood in front of that exact address and wished out loud in front of many people that there is an access point there. I do not think that I can be unbiased, as I have wished for exactly what this proposal is verbally and in front of many people. So I will recuse myself from this conversation.
Hey, that was the establishment of a new access trail to connect the supply ponds. I still think we have enough commissioners that are able to vote on this item, so we'll continue the discussion of BRIW 26-2. And who do we have for the applicant?
It's myself, Richard Shanahan. I'm the chair of Branford Open Space.
Richard, make us smart about 83 Laurel Hill Road access.
Okay, it's actually very simple. It's basically a 1/10 of a mile access point going from the end of Red Rock Road, sort of in an old farm field, down a hill, crosses a very small brook, and up the hill to the Green Trail in the Queech. The whole purpose of this is to give access to that entire suburban neighborhood that is up there that borders the supply ponds in Queech that really have no access to it. So hopefully this will alleviate that.
And can you speak to the removal of the invasives?
Yes, basically we're contracting with the Raptor Ridge Farms that has goat herds. So they're going to come in with, I don't know how many, and basically they'll pen them up for a couple of days, eating the Japanese knotweed, the multiflora rose, the barberry, and all those other nice little plants. That field, the old field, I call it, it's been totally taken over by invasives. That's the biggest problem we have.
And pardon my ignorance, but how do they know which plants to go after?
From what I understand, they're goats. They'll go after anything.
I gotta keep that in mind.
They love poison ivy. Yeah, they really do. If you get a chance, Raptor Ridge Farms, if you look them up on the internet, they have a lot of photographs before and after. It's amazing what they'll do. The problem here is going to be the Japanese knotweed. That's a very, very, very difficult plant to get rid of. So it's going to require additional applications with the goats, or once they do their bit, I don't know if it'll be mechanical or, what have you. We do not want to use chemicals, obviously.
So to that point, I guess, do they eat what's above ground and we still have to get what's underground?
Correct. Yeah, they won't go after the roots, but if they come back, they're recommending at least the first year, 3 sessions, if you will. I think I have enough money in the budget to do that. I just want to see how thorough they are on this first pass through before we make any commitments. This is really a test.
Yeah, certainly novel for myself. You mentioned on-site pen. You have to erect a fence or some corral for them?
They do. They do everything.
Oh, they do.
They transport the goats down. They put up, a portable electric fence that keeps the goats in, but it also keeps the other animals out. So they are protected. It is electrified, low voltage, but if you touch it, you're going to know it. And, they've been doing this quite a bit, and their business is growing leaps and bounds. They have 60 goats now. They're hoping to have over 100 within the next year and a half. There's a huge demand for this.
This is Commissioner Begman. I know that when you're talking about putting in the footbridge with cedar and that you're not going to disturb the stream.
Correct.
It just gets laid over that small little.
Right.
And,
Yeah. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
and I just want to know if there's any disturbance there or if any. And then the second question, it has to do with the goats and their waste and how close they're going to be to the stream, because in Short Beach there's been research that shows that it was the dog waste that was causing increased
Absolutely.
E. coli. So if you can speak to that.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be there long enough to really cause any problem whatsoever. They will be down to the stream, not beyond the stream, because everything from Red Rock Road down to the stream it's all invasives. I had to cut a little bit of a footpath through there, and it basically took me about 2 days just to sort of machete my way through it. It's very thick, so we really need to get down to the stream. I don't think the waste is going to be any issue whatsoever. And along those lines, I've also hired the East Shore Health to test the supply ponds, because with all the dog waste there, we're concerned about contamination.
Commissioner Begman, follow-up question. Does this organization have information about their animals and their waste? I mean, it's known that grazing, animals that are at a spot grazing near water
Right.
can be detrimental to the water source. So,
Well, they figure at the most it's going to be 5 days, but most likely 3 days. So, I mean, it really is a short time period. And the time they're going to spend down by the stream is minimal. I think the biggest problem is going to be the knotweed, which is up by Red Rock. And by the time you get down to the stream, it's mostly multiflora rose.
This is Commissioner Mursky. Just a question, because you mentioned about the time you estimate that they'll be down there, the goats. You mentioned estimated 3 to 5 days. I mean, and also you mentioned it's an experiment. It does sound like a creative solution, but in this experimentation, did you consider what might happen if this time estimate is not accurate and is there a possibility that the goats might have to stay longer? And if they had to stay longer to achieve the goal that you want, whether it's the first pass or second time you mentioned, and if it's going to be longer, how that's going to impact some of the concerns that Commissioner Begeman just mentioned?
I'm not sure. They seem fairly confident. The first pass is going to be 3 to 5 days. They've been doing this quite a bit. We walk the property, we walk the area that we're concerned about. And basically that's what their contract is for, 3 to 5 days. And I have a max. I can't go over it. I'll just run out of money. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. Later in the year, if they come back for a second or third time, it's going to be a lot less, because they're going to get rid of the majority of the flora the first time through. And the second time is trying to get, where they, especially with the knotweed, where it starts to resprout and what have you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Basserman, if in the sequence, is it goats first and then the bridge?
Oh, yeah. Because this is down, it's not steep, but it's down a hill. So I'm concerned about erosion. On the Queech property side, leaving the green trail, I've already mapped out a couple of switchbacks, just to lessen the, on the Red Rock Road side, because it was so thick, I just really made a straight line down, which I think is too steep. There would be too much erosion. So I need for the goats to get in there and just really get rid of that multiflora rose. So then we can go in and sort of like, okay, where's what are the contours of the property and, how do we just put a switchback or two in there? So yeah, they have to get in there first.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Does staff have any concerns they want to raise regarding this new trail?
Jamie Frederick, the wetland agent. Olivia prepared a staff memo for this application. I think that this is fairly typical to other applications the commission has seen regarding recreational trails. It does provide access to a significant neighborhood of properties. I don't know if everyone had a chance to look at everything in the Dropbox. If or I guess in OpenGov, if you would like, I can screen share any of the materials. I guess one question I have that I actually haven't asked previously is there any plan for revegetating the portions of the cleared area that won't be the trail in between the switchbacks to prevent the invasives from reestablishing? Or
No, there isn't. I mean, I'm sure over time the invasives will come back. But along the trail, a couple of feet on each side, when people start making a trail, that area is pretty clear. To look at the invasives beyond that, I don't know where you would stop. I mean, the entire parcel, if you will, is all invasives. So we're just trying to get in there wide enough to really push it back and, have a trail that's manageable, that's not going to snag people and what have you. But like on all our trails, we do have to go in at times and just really do a lot of invasive removal. But we can't do everything. We don't have the manpower or the money.
and what's the proposed surface of the trail? Is it is it
So they are
dirt or
protected.
gravel?
Money. Just all dirt all the way.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Jamie, you have as a possible consideration, or Olivia has as a possible consideration, wetland signs. What would be
Yeah.
the message on the signs?
So that would be our standard wetland conservation signs. It was something that Olivia drafted up that I thought was interesting. It's not something that I think has been typical with the past practice of the Inland Wetland Commission to require signage on town properties. But I did think it was a kind of a unique approach to things, and it might, increase the visibility of the signage and get people wondering and thinking about wetland areas. So I would say it's up to the commission whether you think that would be appropriate to kind of identify wetland crossing area.
One, as a follow-up, is Commissioner Basserman, given the access point close to the road, I wondered if part of the sign was, no motorized vehicles on the trails, as opposed to, just the wetland sign. I'm not sure I know what's on the typical wetland sign.
I would let Richard Shanahan speak to whether he thinks.
Yeah, that's a
that's-
concern is motorized vehicles. We've, over the years, we put so many boulders and gates up because of that. And we have every intention, probably depending how it goes, we'll be putting boulders up at the entrance. We also plan to have a small kiosk, with a map and, just general information. And on there, we have signs, no motorized vehicles. That's pretty well given on all the properties. But again, like anything, you always have 2 or 3 people that think that doesn't apply to them.
This is Commissioner Begemon again. So you had mentioned the slope. We don't have a map that shows the topography, but and you mentioned erosion, and that of course makes us think about water quality. So can you talk about, I mean, you're going to do switchbacks, or Jamie, whoever can help with this in terms of you know, when people are creating nature paths and well, measures to reduce erosion, or what do we need to know in terms of the steep? It's not, you know, 3 to 1 or whatever.
Well, you know, yeah, I don't know exactly what the slope is. Unfortunately, on the town GIS, when I try to print out the contours, I can't get it to print. So it's just the basic map. It's nothing onerous at all. I mean, it's just, we always try to look who's going to be using it. And there's a lot of people in that neighborhood that aren't necessarily hikers. So it's going to be, it's not going to be supply pond level, but it's not going to be that much away from that. I know I'm not quite answering your question in details. I don't know how to answer that. I don't think if we go straight down, that's always a problem. You know, we always want to break it out and just level off the path where we can. And that's what we intend to do. So I really don't think erosion is going to be that big of a deal. Because we don't want erosion either, because it erodes the trail. And then we got to go back and fix it. So.
This Commissioner Bergmans, what I'm hearing is that measures will be taken to reduce the possibilities of erosion by creating switchbacks and by putting up whatever you put up on the side of the trail to.
Right, when we have to
Use
level
runoff.
it off, cut across the slope,
Yeah,
depending on how steep it is, yeah, we'll put a log on the downhill side and fasten that, so it prevents it from washing out, if you will. But yeah, that's pretty much a standard practice.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Any other questions from the commission? Jamie, can you post the memo that Olivia put together?
Yeah, 1 minute.
Can we blow that up a little?
Sure. So the first paragraph pretty much outlines the presentation that Richard Shanahan provided. There's a link to the company that would be providing the goats. The considerations, we've got the wetland signs near the wetland crossing. Again, the intention would be those circular signs that we had in the wetland office. And I think that the main point of doing that would be, again, just to kind of increase familiarity with the signage across town. And then information about fencing for goat herd to be submitted to the Inland Wetlands Agency if the commission feels that additional details are needed on that. I'm just gonna quickly go to the website here because you can kind of see the fencing on their website. And then required inspections, pre-construction meeting, and final inspection with standard conditions and general provisions of all permits.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Mr. Shanahan, what's the power source for the low voltage?
They have batteries. They
Oh.
bring their,
So no generator or anything?
no, but they do everything. And it's low voltage. You know, I think it's a couple of car batteries, I'm guessing.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Sotomayor. Jamie, do you think there would be any rationale to have this be like a jurisdictional ruling since the reason for the trail is recreational use?
So historically, the commission has required permits for boardwalks. I would say argument could be made for the invasive species removal potentially for a jurisdictional ruling, but I think it would align with past practice to require a permit. And with it being a town project, there is no application fee. So the review process doesn't really change substantially. Beyond the fact that we would require that the inspections, which we would not require for a jurisdictional ruling.
This is
Copy that.
This is Commissioner Begman. So is this memo like a staff report, prepare a staff report? Is that what we're?
Yeah, for town projects, specifically like trail projects, small projects, we have kind of done memos because there's less, we don't have stormwater management, erosion controls is a little bit different, so it doesn't really fit our standard staff report form quite as well.
So Commissioner Begman, so when we were talking about control for motorized vehicles that Mr. Shanahan was talking about in terms of putting up rocks or gates, is that, should that be included in this memo?
You could add that as a condition of the permit. Another thing you could add is that a report, an update be provided to the agency after the goats have done their thing to see if, it worked the way they were hoping for it to work. Just that way, should you have another goat application in the future, you have a little bit more experience under your belt with how it works. I'm sure that Richard would be happy to provide an update.
So this Commissioner Begman, I think those two are good ideas to be added. Or plans to be added.
Commissioner Begeman, would you like to take that one step further and make a motion, including those?
Sure. This is Commissioner Begman. I'd like to make a motion that we approve BRIW 26283 Laurel Hill Road, the construction of a short 0.1 mile access trail from Red Rock Road to Supply Ponds on town property. And according to the report or the memo that was prepared tonight by Olivia Sandberg, and with the addition that motorized vehicle deterrent will be added, and that there'll be a report to town staff after goat grazing.
If I can add one thing, excuse me.
I think we need a second first. Do we have a second motion on Commissioner Begeman's motion?
This is Commissioner Sotomayor. I second the motion.
Okay, then somebody had an amendment they wanted to fly?
No, I just wanted to add where.
Sorry, only commissioners can talk when a motion's on the table.
Oh, sorry.
Any further discussion on that motion? I guess we'll take a vote. Commissioner Begeman.
Commissioner Begman, aye.
Commissioner Sotomayor.
Commissioner Sotomayor, aye.
Commissioner Armstrong.
Commissioner Armstrong, aye.
Commissioner Mirsky.
Shimersky, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. You wanted to add something, Mr. Shanahan?
I did. So with the boulders, basically we don't put boulders until we know there's an issue. But I plan to do that here. But if we do it right after the goats are done, if we have to go in there and do mechanical cutting with the goat hog or what have you, we're not going to be able to get in there if all the boulders are in. We're going to block our own access. So the boulders may not be put in for a while until we have a good idea of what we have to do for the invasives.
Well, this is Commissioner Begman. We didn't put a date on it, so I think you're good.
Okay, all right. No, I just want to make sure. I don't want to have anybody have surprises later on, like where are the rocks?
Yeah, and I'm sure if you find that you are having an issue sooner rather than later, that you'll do something to address it.
Right.
Okay, good luck, and hopefully that'll improve access to a great part of Branford's opportunity to enjoy nature.
Yes. Should be a good project. Thank you very much.
Inland Wetland 2614, 509, 545 East Main Street, 6 to 12 Business Park installation of a swale. Jamie, I know this is a chestnut that's been around a while. We have some additional material, but I think you had some concerns.
So Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent, just to quickly recap and let commissioners know, because we've got a couple new ones. The applicant did come before the commission last year, kind of to help determine whether or not a permit was required for the proposed swale, and whether or not the A2 survey requirement could be waived. The commission determined that the A2 survey could be waived and that they could use GIS mapping for their application, but that the commission wanted information on the drainage, particularly in regards to whether there would be any increase in the amount of drainage being directed and by the swale that's proposed. So we do have representation present for the applicant team. I can either screen share, or if the applicant team wants to screen share, I can make that available.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Ed Schenkel. I represent 509 Branford LLC, the applicant, owner of 509-545 Main. I have with me here tonight two people on our team, Mr. Stephen Trinkus, who's our engineer, and his plan has been submitted as a way to resolve the drainage problem on the boundary line of the 509-545 Main Street and 612 Business Park Drive, and also Mr. Jonathan Foss, who's our LEP. He has submitted a simultaneous application with DEEP to release or temporarily release the ELUR so we can complete the work as approved by this commission. Just by way of very brief background, there's been an ongoing drainage issue and water pooling issue on the boundary line of 509-545 Main Street and 6-12 Business Park Drive.
Excuse me, this is Commissioner Boda. Can somebody pull up a site plan so that we can be oriented as you're discussing? I'm sure you're super familiar with what
Yeah,
you're discussing, but we see.
sure. I was actually going to just
million-
speak for like 30 more seconds and turn over to Mr. Trinkus, and then he may want to screen share or have Jamie screen share. Mr. Trinkus really is going to talk about his plan.
Yeah, but
and
when
then
you're talking about where water is, it's really super helpful if we can actually see where you're talking about.
Okay. I'm gonna have Mr. Trinkus do that then. So because it's his plan, and I don't want to mischaracterize anything. So I was just introducing by way of background who's here, what the issue is, and we have a plan to resolve the drainage problem. Mr. Trinkus can take it from here.
Thank you. Steve Trinket, for the record, a professional engineer from Southbury. Jamie, could you pull up the GIS plan that we submitted of the entire park and that area? And I think it'll address the other commissioner's question. I can walk you through that.
All right. Real quick before I do that, I think I'm going to pull up an aerial image and just let everyone see it that way, and then we can jump over to.
That'll be fine also, actually. So.
Oops. Okay. Of course, there's a big arrow right where our subject area to look at is, but we're looking at the area between this parcel and this parcel. This one being the East Main Street address, and this being the Business Park address.
Okay, this is great, Jamie. I can explain the drainage situation from here. So 509 is, just to the top of the blue arrow, as Jamie pointed out. There's an adjacent mobile home park as you go to the right.
Hold on one second. Again, this is Commissioner Boda. So just for orientation, because you guys look at this stuff and you know exactly where you are. You've looked at this map. You've located yourself in town, but I see what looks like 95 on the bottom. Let's just slow down for a quick second.
That's correct.
on the far right of the screen. That is an off ramp. So is that what would be the Dunks on the
This
left?
is Dunkin' Donuts. This is the Sky Diner.
Okay. So the arrow, that's the medical, where the arrow is that the medical building?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
medical building. Over here is Planet Fitness.
Okay. Yeah. So is everybody okay? Because like that's just to orient before all
Sure.
of the talking is really super helpful. At least I'm okay. Can we make sure everybody's okay?
Okay, so 509 is directly above the blue arrow. There's a second mobile home park to the east adjacent to Dunkin' Donuts. The eastern mobile home park slopes down to 509, so the runoff from that park currently drains onto 509. 509 drains from the north to the south. Before the medical building was built, the left half of that site was, a wetland area. The grade on the medical building site was raised 6 to 8 foot above the existing grade when the building was constructed. And there was originally a drainage ditch, which was just to the, when you're looking at the picture, just to the left of the medical building that kind of diagonally crossed where the parking lot is now. When they built the medical building, they put a concrete box culvert in that ditch location, believing that that was the natural low point, where the water went because there was a water course there. However, the natural low point is actually in the back rear corner of the medical building to the left of the blue arrow, right at the end of the 509 property. And so when the medical building was constructed and the grade was raised, basically it created a dam. So the runoff from the two mobile home parks comes as overland flow. There is no structural drainage on the site. And this is actually a better one. So right in the lower left-hand corner of this is where the water currently ponds on the 509 property. There you can see a diagonal line on the medical property. That's the approximate location of the box culvert. So what happens now when it rains a lot is the water starts filling up and begins to flood some of the lower units on 509. And ultimately the water rises up 1.5 feet or more, and then the water can drain, at least the excess water drains into the box culvert, and goes on its merry way to the south in Long Island Sound. Our proposal is, we did a field survey with a licensed land surveyor, Gail Adams, along this boundary line, and we're going to create a paved swale with a berm from the western side back towards the east that will come right to the end of the box culvert. The swale will have a 1% pitch on it. It will be a paved swale 2 foot wide with an earth berm on the downhill side. Here's the plan that we did. And you can see the detail in the lower right here where we have, the paved, it's 18 inches wide, not 2 feet, but it's a paved swale and then this berm to trap the water and give it a border for the water to run. Jamie, if you can zoom back out to the plan part of it, of the swale. Yeah, thank you. So from the right-hand side here, going back up to the box culvert, which is the heavy line here in the upper left, we have enough pitch to make this swale 1% pitch, which is literally the bare minimum you want to put a swale on, because the water needs a slope to be able to move in one direction or the other. And basically, by doing a paved surface, there's very little resistance to flow on a paved surface. And with a 1% pitch, any water from 509 that comes down to the low point on the western end here will hit the swale and make its way along the top of the swale and then right into the end of the box culvert, which will eliminate the flooding that currently occurs on the 509 property. it's all the work is done on the 509 property. There's actually a chain link fence between the two properties. Currently, all the work will be done on the north side, which is owned by 509. When we did the field topography survey in the field, the natural low point is on this western end, and that's really where, when the medical building was built, that culvert actually probably should have been put in, because we wouldn't have this discussion with you at this time. But this is a very shallow, amount of excavation. There's got to be a gravel base under the pavement. And then once it's installed, the berm will be seeded and, vegetated, covered with hay mulch. And now we provide a path for the water to go there. I know one of Jamie's staff comments was, perhaps an erosion control measure at the inlet of the culvert. We can either put a 5-inch compost sock across the end of this, or a piece of silt fence during construction. But a lot of the work is going to be very minor. The excavation is really about 6 inches down from the existing grade. These contour lines are actually I think 1/10 of a foot. So, it's very flat there if you're out there with your naked eye looking at it. And that's why we did the 1/10 of a foot contour, because I wanted to be able to identify, high and low spots to make sure, we could get the water from the west side all the way back to the box culvert. And this work should probably take, assuming we have nice weather like we had today, this could be done in 4 to 5 days tops, start to finish. So it's could even be less, but it's a fairly quick process to put this in.
Mr. Trinkus, this is Commissioner Boda. Why send the water off instead of infiltrate it with an infiltration system or additional gravel or other means of infiltration and holding the water?
The site will not infiltrate water. This is perhaps the LEP can weigh in on this, but this site has contaminated fill. There is a liner about a foot down, so you're not allowed to infiltrate water. Also, many urbanized sites simply do not have the capacity to infiltrate water. If it did have capacity, we wouldn't have the flooding that we've experienced, because the water would have been able to disappear, but it simply doesn't infiltrate.
There's a liner underneath.
There is a liner, yes.
There's contamination underneath.
Yeah, I think I would let the LEP talk about that. That's outside my jurisdiction.
Thank you. There's a hand.
Mr. Foss, you have your hand raised?
Yes, I'm the LEP. I'm with Go Environmental of Milford. There is contamination under majority of the southern portion of the 509 site. With it's got petroleum hydrocarbons in it and some metals. But they put the liner down to create a barrier, so they know when it will stop water infiltration from the surface down into the material and won't leach it further into the groundwater, and protects against human contact if you were to dig too deep in that area. So we can't disturb that barrier without releasing the EUR, and that's what we're working on. But the membrane is waterproof on purpose.
I understand. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Are there stormwater management drainage calculations with this plan?
Mr. Bassman, no, there are not, because we're not changing the water that currently drains here. Both mobile home parks simply drain as overland flow. There is no structural drainage. So whether you have a 1-inch storm or a 10-inch storm, the same amount of water is going to get down here. We're not increasing any impervious area on the site.
So are you merely just directing the flow?
Yeah, that's really what we're doing right now. There are some minor high and low points. I mean, when I mean minor, they're 1/10 of a foot or 2/10 of a foot, up and downs. So basically, the water from the low point on the western end of 509 cannot simply drain to the inlet of the box culvert. And so what we're doing is we're providing a path for the water from the western side where the actual low point is to drain, it's not uphill, but it's simply draining 1%. There's about a 1.5 foot difference. I believe the whole swale is 150 foot long. And it's providing just a conveyance mechanism to get the water to the box culvert so it can go on its merry way to the south.
As a follow-up, I guess, this is Commissioner Basserman, how do you determine the size of the box culvert at this point without those calculations?
The box culvert was sized by the developers of the medical building. It is a 36 by 30 concrete box culvert. They have had it videoed. It is clean. It is not clogged with any material. It's in very good, structural capacity. But this water already was going towards the medical building site before they ever built the medical building. So the engineer at that time would have taken into account the upstream watershed to size that particular culvert.
Is that information that you stated about the box culvert, the liner, etc., all part of the material provided in this application?
We did not, all the information on the sizing of the box culvert would be in your land use records for when the medical building was approved. We did not copy that and provide it. I think I'd defer to Ed on the other part of the question.
I think I may have some insight too that might be helpful. When the medical building was constructed, there was an original drainage plan which was intended to function the way Mr. Trinkus's plan intends to transit the water to the culvert. For reasons unknown to me, that swale in the original drainage plan going back to around 2001, it was either never installed or not properly installed, or something happened in the last 25 years where that swale by way of just the natural elements just that doesn't exist anymore. So our proposal, Mr. Trinkus' proposal, is essentially a new and improved swale plan to do what the intended 2001 drainage plan was supposed to do. So what I'm trying to say is this was the drainage solution that was approved 25 years ago by the commission, and just for whatever reasons that swale was never installed or not installed properly. And what we're trying to do is resolve that problem, install better swale, and have the water drain properly into the culvert. I'm not sure if that answered your question, but I think that may provide some useful background.
I guess the problem I'm having is this application has a stand on its own. And I have some difficulty in trying to reference things 25 years ago, incorporating them into a decision that this commission needs to make today. And I guess the other issue is with the stormwater, is there no stormwater treatment?
There never was stormwater treatment from either of the mobile home parks. And as we are not changing anything within the park areas as far as roof or driveways, anything impervious, none is proposed. And because of the liner, most of the site besides the roof and driveways is lawn area. And again, the water is coming as overland flow. To follow up on Ed's point, this is really what I would term is a corrective action plan. The original design was a riprap swale, basically along the fence line. While riprap swales are good for slowing the water down, they create a tortured path for the water because of the resistance to flow within the rocks. And assuming that we had pretty much the same grades that we have here today, even if the riprap swale had been installed, the water would not get to the box culvert because the riprap basically would not have allowed a smooth flow to go from the west to the east. That's why the base of this proposed swale is simply asphalt, to provide a smooth, uniform pitch surface to take the water from the west to the east. But, there is no water quality on it. And again, as Jonathan pointed out, you have contaminated soil, so systems where you typically might infiltrate the water could simply not be used on this site. But this has been the existing condition on these two parks ever since they were developed.
So this is Commissioner Boda. I think, so this was for receipt last meeting? Okay. I think that we should take a site walk. I think that, I think for the applicant, it would be helpful for you to know, if you have not already considered that, this is a particularly unique situation in that you're asking for, impervious bituminous surface to not be treated, and that you might look to do something at the release end, while we schedule our site walk and before we meet again, to do something, whether for temperature. It is, I cannot think of an application that we've had where we've approved something like this. I understand the nature of this particular application. You cannot infiltrate this water as is because of the liner underneath. But that doesn't mean that at the other end that there are not some creative solutions that you perhaps you have not considered. So you've got a little bit of time if we do a site walk. And I think that it would be helpful for all of us to get our eyes on the starting point, the end point, etc. That's my opinion.
Ms. Butler, I think I can address some of that. This, the box culvert actually is connected to the storm drainage system under the parking lot of the medical building. It then goes to a densely, well, maybe it was never intended to be densely planted, but it goes to a wetland detention basin that is basically very dense wetland plants in it, which was put in as part of the medical building. So this runoff does not simply get discharged under the road. It goes through the stormwater system that's on the medical building site. So there is a degree of treatment.
Jamie Frederick in the wetland agent. Point of clarification there. I meant to add the site plan from 612 Business Park to this application, and it's come to my attention that it didn't make it into the open gov record. But my understanding is that that box culvert ties into the system, obviously on 612 Business Park, but that it doesn't enter the detention basin, but rather is piped out to this water course that runs along 95 and then northerly along the railroad tracks to the Branford River. Have you done site testing to determine that it goes to this basin rather than the water course?
We can't do anything on the medical building site. I have no ability to trespass. I can look at the plans. They may have changed in the field, but we don't have any ability to look at that site. If you have an as-built drawing, that's going to be your best source. I believed it had connected structures that did bring it into, the wetland basin there on the western end of the site. We can look at the plans from the medical building site, but that's all we can do.
This is Commissioner Begman. Can you speak to the choice of the bituminous versus concrete, for instance? I know you need a smooth surface, and I know you're on your letterhead, you have low impact development, et cetera. So I know.
Yeah, I'd be happy to address that. One is from an impervious standpoint, they're equal. Two, to put concrete here, you need a much deeper gravel base, because otherwise the concrete's going to be much more susceptible to frost heaving. It's a more rigid surface. From a, water quality standpoint, neither pavement nor concrete creates pollutants. What creates potential pollutants is stuff that falls on the surfaces and then is washed off. So both of them, from an environmental standpoint, are benign. Once the asphalt is installed, rolled, and compacted, and hardens up, the bitumen oil that's in the asphalt is locked in. It doesn't become migratory. Concrete is also an issue with concrete because our DOTs are all using de-icing agents on our roads instead of sand. The runoff from literally any impervious area today has very high chloride concentrations. And when it flows across concrete, it will destroy the concrete over time. The chlorides are the worst thing you could have on concrete. So the asphalt is the easiest, the fastest to put in, and the most benign of the two different materials.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Bassford. There's a lot going on this site that's kind of unique. The idea of getting fresh eyes on this as it exists today, I think is going to be very worthwhile in considering this application. So I'd like to take Commissioner Boda's idea of a site walk and see if we can pick a date to make that happen. If this thing is going to move forward, I think it needs our eyes on it. Jamie, our next meeting is when?
Next
May.
meeting, May 14th.
Is it possible to do it before the meeting? Now that daylight saving time is here and
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, I think that's probably a question in part for the applicant, given that I'm sure you want them to be available on site and they have to get back to wherever they can remotely join the meeting.
well, before we do that, is that a worthwhile time and date for the other commissioner members, or is there another suggestion that we would like the applicant to consider?
It's Commissioner Mursky. I'm in agreement depending on the date. I just would ask to the extent it can be later in the day, just because some of us work, that would be helpful, but I guess it would depend on the applicant's availability and other commissioners as well.
This is Commissioner Boda. I think I would prefer it not to be on the same day as our meeting, with work and needing to feed younger humans before the meeting. It's a tight fit. But I mean, we could do potentially the Thursday, like the 7th, the Thursday before. I think doing it on a weekday's a little bit easier than on a weekend, or a Saturday morning at 9 might be feasible also.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I am covering planning and zoning meetings for the time being, so the 7th, I would need to be available to be back in the office by 6:30.
Does that Saturday work?
This is Commissioner Mursky. Were you restricted to Thursday and Saturday? Were you restricted to
No.
Thursday for some reason, or that was just a preference?
It was just a random.
Oh, okay. I mean, if Jamie, I guess I didn't realize Jamie has other responsibilities. Is there a weekday that works for you, Jamie, and may also work for the applicant given your additional duties?
Generally speaking, I can be available any weekday. Thursdays are challenging. Because planning and zoning meets on the days that in the wetland doesn't for the most part.
Well, this is Commissioner Mursky. I get Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of that same week is possible, but again, others may have their own preferences.
The week of the 14th, the week of the 7th.
I was looking at the week of the 7th. I mean, yeah, the week of the 7th. I mean, this is Commissioner Mursky again. I could do the 11th or the 13th. I can't do the 12th of the second week.
This is Commissioner Begman. I'll weigh in, say yes to May 13, Wednesday.
That's a go for me.
You said Wednesday, May 13th?
13th.
Actually, this is Commissioner Begman. Cancel that. I may not be in town. So I'm looking closer at my calendar. Ugh,
How about the day before?
no.
No. All right.
Week before, the 5th,
Yeah.
Tuesday the 5th.
I could do Wednesday the 6th.
What time?
For me, anything, but
Is 5 o'clock late enough for folks?
Yes.
5 o'clock, May 6th. Is that what's on the table?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll work
How
for the
about for the applicant? Is that an open date
Yep.
for you guys?
Yes, it is for me. Thank you.
For me as well.
That works for me.
Okay, for,
This is
Go ahead.
Commissioner Begman. Before we move off, I read one thing, like I added up the numbers. It seems like the swale will be 125 feet, but then I thought that I read somewhere else Jamie had more feet. How long is the swale going to be?
I believe, I'd have to look at my plan, but I believe it's 150 feet
Okay.
from the start to the end of the box culvert.
Thank you.
But I'll have that answer for the site walk.
Okay, so we have Wednesday, May 6th, 5 o'clock, site walk. And what is there's a very large range of street address. So
You
Jamie,
go
will
in
you send that out, or do you guys want to tell us now?
509, I guess, was it East Main Street? I believe it is.
Yeah, it's 509-545 East Main. But if you enter,
I'll show you.
I'm wondering if it's easier just to meet at the just so no one gets lost. Meet at the
medical.
At the medical building?
Way to the mobile home park.
What's the name of the mobile home?
It is, I believe, Shoreline Mobile Home Park.
So meet at entrance.
Yeah, and then we could just we don't have to drive. We'll have to drive a few minutes to get to the area. But that's the best solution I could think of right now. So
Yeah,
no one,
I mean, if you think of something better, you can always message Jamie, and Jamie will
We'll put it on
update
the
us.
site walk agenda.
okay.
Distribute it to everyone.
And also one question for the commission: is there anything else that either I or Mr. Trinkus or Mr. Foss can provide to you?
This is
in terms of-
Commissioner Boda. It's good to have so that swale would be staked at the beginning and at the end.
That can be easily marked.
Yeah, that's what would be ideal.
Okay, Mark. And anything else that we can work on providing before the next meeting that'd be helpful?
Does the commission want me to add the site plan or as built if available for 612 Business Park to the record for reference, or you?
Sure.
Yes.
I'll make that available to the applicant as well.
Anything else?
Okay, see everybody on the 6th.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me.
Thank you. Yep.
Before we break on this application, I just wanted to introduce myself and let the commissioners know that I'm not some person just lurking on this thing from the public. I'm actually sitting here with Alex Clutch, who's the owner of 6 to 12 Business Park. And he just engaged us this week to, with respect to this application, to attend this meeting and listen in. I had several notes if this went beyond and wasn't sort of tabled until the inspection. I'm glad to see that the commissioners are going to do a walkthrough of the property. But he just engaged us literally a day and a half ago, so I was able to download the files from your application, and I haven't been able to formulate. I can now provide like some time to provide a written response to that. My name is Jeff Brown. I'm with Ty & Bond, and I'm also a licensed environmental professional, as is Mr. Foss. So we hold the same license. I was involved in the development of 6 to 12 Business Park Drive back in 2004 and 5. So I know quite a bit about the property. I know what the conditions were then. I probably have photos of that and site plans. I can tell you with respect to your drainage question earlier, that the box culvert and the culvert that exists under the parking lot at 6 to 12 Business Park does indeed connect to the stormwater in Business Park Drive. It does not pick up the drainage on 6 to 12 Business Park. The roof drains and the parking lot drains, the catch basins there, all go to the infiltration basin at the west end of Business Park, 6 to 12 Business Park. That swale only conveys the water from the riprap area along the fence line under 6 to 12 Business Park, where, like I said, it connects to the stormwater system on Business Park Drive. I can, before the 6th, Bob Criscolo Engineering, design that drainage. His firm, and I can get that plan from Jim Preddy if I have to. I'm sure Jim has it. But I can provide significant information on 6 to 12 Business Park Drive and how it relates to the conditions along the fence line. And I can provide some additional questions for Mr. Foss and Mr. Trinkus about questions I have. They mentioned an impermeable liner was installed on that property, on the trailer park property, and that needs to exist to prohibit drainage. But to one of the commissioner's questions, I was curious, why couldn't the water be infiltrated north of that liner? Right now, the problem is the liner where it's installed seems to be stopping stormwater from infiltrating to the subsurface. Why not take and infiltrate that north of the liner where water can actually perk? Would be one of my general questions. But again, I'm not familiar with the extent of that liner, the depth of the liner or the like, but it seems to me that the impermeable liner is stopping infiltration of stormwater. So it's kind of a question. Maybe there could be another place where that stormwater could be infiltrated. And that's all I have. I'm glad that this was tabled until after the site walkover, when I can have some more time to review some of these documents. That's it.
Look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, this is a good question. Thank you, Mr. Brown. I think you bring up a good question, which is what is the extent of the liner on the property? Like, where is it and where is it not? I think that would be really helpful information to know.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, I believe we have a site plan for East Main Street property that shows that, so I can also add that.
Okay, thank you.
I
And
can
I
send
think-
that as an email as well.
I'm sorry?
I can send that as an email as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you have something, feel free to submit.
Okay. Item 6, enforcement, cease and correct 25-1201. We're going to table that and continue it on May 14th. Hopefully information will be available at that point. Any questions for staff on the agent approvals listed on the agenda? Hearing nothing, we'll move to the jurisdictional ruling request. RIW 2616, 39 Sawmill Road. Removal of Phragmites by hand and replacing with wildflowers and vegetable garden. Was there anything sent out on that one, Jamie, or not?
I'm sorry?
Was there anything sent out on that?
There's materials in the OpenGov system, so there should be a hyperlink on the agenda linking to those materials. Do we have
Anything other than straightforward removal of Phragmites by hand here?
someone present to present? Olivia, did a copy of the agenda get sent to the requestee for this through OpenGov?
Yeah, I did email it to,
I'm not seeing anyone present. Do we want to table the matter until somebody's present, Chairman, or do you want
I
to look at it?
we have no other choice but to do that.
Yeah, I know that they're proposing hand removal. I did request a couple additional details. I am working from home because I am a bit under the weather,
Right.
so I can't see I don't know my login off the top of my head, so I can't see the internal comments to see if they responded.
This is right for tabling.
This is Commissioner Bergman. They are talking about planting vegetables and all in that area. So, and it was a hand-drawn map. Seems like since it's already going to be postponed, maybe we can ask them for more information.
Yeah, so that's part of what I asked them to address
Okay.
is the extent of how much of the Phragmites they're proposing to remove, if they're removing the rhizomes, because if you're planting things, you probably need to do that. And if so, are they removing material, bringing material in, things like that. And I'm not sure if they responded to that today or not, because again, I'm not logged into the staff side of the system today.
Okay.
Okay, other business. We have town council with us this evening to provide some training for all commissioners. Turn the floor over to you, Mr. Yanukovych.
Oops, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to make this as painless as possible. Let me share my screen. Okay. So, McKeel had, before he left, asked me to basically present what was the equivalent of a presentation I made to the Planning and Zoning Commission several months ago on ex parte communications. He felt, based on historical and anticipated applications that were going to be controversial, that it might be a good time to refresh people's memories on the rules that apply to ex parte communications. I'm going to try and get rid of. Doesn't work that way, does it? Hold on. Okay, good. The commission, as you know, acts in a quasi-judicial role when conducting a hearing and deciding on applications. As such, those decisions have to be objective, based on the record and not personal opinions. The overriding sort of rule here with respect to ex parte communications is the requirement for fairness and public confidence in our institutions. Now it's not allowing me to. Oh, maybe it is allowing me to do that. Okay, now I know what I'm doing. Definitionally speaking, an ex parte communication is any off-the-record communication about facts, about evidence, about legal issues related to a pending matter between a decision maker, a member of the commission or staff person, and one party or interested person, without notice to and an opportunity for the other parties to participate or be heard. The general statutory framework is established by 22A, 42A, and 43, which basically direct the commission to hold its proceedings in accordance with the rules established for zoning commissions in 8.7-B. If you go into that section, you will see that the rules around public hearings and decisions based on the record is contained in 8-3, 8-7D gives specific hearing procedures and timelines. The most important part of the statutory framework is 4-181, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit more detail. That's used by the courts when reviewing challenges to decisions based on ex parte communications. And then the regulations at 22A39 provide specific rules about wetlands public hearings, such as timelines for publication and the requirement that applications be open. I want to talk just a little bit about the sort of heart of the statutory framework, which is 4-181. 4-181 has 4 parts. I'm not going to read the slide, but I will try to sort of translate it into English. Section 4-181A sets forth the general rule against ex parte communications. What it means is that you may not, as a commission member, privately communicate about facts related to a pending matter or legal issues with any party or their lawyer. And this also applies to staff. We've had situations in the last decade or so when I had been town attorney where lawyers seem to think that when they're representing an applicant, that it's okay for them during a public hearing to have electronic and telephone conversations with staff, and that's not permitted. The only time you can have that kind of communication is is when everyone's involved and given notice and has a chance to participate. What it means is you should never allow new information to be heard or arguments made off the record. If you do so, if you have information that comes in outside the hearing, you have to share it. And again, remember that the general rule is, and you need to ask yourself, when someone sort of approaches you about a conversation or something like that, is this fair? Would this be fair if I were in the other guy's shoes, if you will? Subsection B actually sets forth a series of rules when you are asking what does subsection A not apply to, and what it doesn't prevent. Commissioners are not prevented by the ex parte communication doctrine from talking to one another, obviously, outside the public hearing. They're not prevented from getting information or help from agency staff or employees or advisors / consultants. And that's important to remember. There was a lot of controversy around a previous application in which consultants were having conversations with staff members. Those are completely legitimate conversations, as long as those people haven't themselves received improper ex parte communications. So what does it really mean? It means normal internal discussions are allowed, staff support is allowed, but staff can't pass along outside or one-sided information from a particular party. Subsection C sets forth some external facing requirements. People outside the agency can't privately communicate with decision makers or their staff about the case unless everyone's notified. So it's not just a rule that applies to commission members and staff, but to people outside the agency as well. That includes parties, most importantly, interveners, because we've seen that, and anyone who might have a personal or financial interest in the outcome. What it means is that the ex parte doctrine is a two-way street. It applies to decision makers, it applies to applicants, neighbors, and anyone with an interest in the decision. It also means that any sort of back channel, if you will, lobbying is not permitted. And that's super important to keep in mind. Lastly, subsection D of 181 deals with timelines, and that's sort of important. That's a question that often comes up. The rules apply under the law from the time the matter becomes contested through and including the date the final decision takes effect. Now, some people have argued that the ex parte communication rule doesn't apply until it becomes apparent that an applicant has opposition to its application. I tend not to interpret this rule that way. I think that the safer, the most appropriate way to avoid being in trouble is to think about it this way. Once you've accepted an application and set it down for a public hearing, even if the public hearing is a week or so away, assume that the rule applies and rebuff any attempts to take in information. While it technically might be okay, it just starts to create all sorts of gray areas that you don't really want to have to deal with if you don't have to. At the latest, the rules apply no later than the date of the hearing. So, technically speaking, the ex parte doctrine starts when the hearing starts. The rules apply during the entire decision-making window and not just the hearing. So once the hearing starts, the rule is in place and it applies until the vote's taken. Okay, I'm going to just stop there. That was sort of a lot of information. If anyone has any questions. Okay, here's the bluff. This is my favorite slide. a decision making, and we'll share this slide deck with everyone so that you have it for reference. A decision maker or commission member should never learn something about the case in private that the parties don't share in public or learn about public. Internal discussion's fine. Laundering outside information, not so much. No one gets to whisper in your ear or in a staff person's ear. And once the hearing is open and pending, the no private communication rule is in effect until the decision is final. Okay. All right. Now, what's a prohibited
Hey, Bill,
communication?
can we stop here?
Yeah.
In terms of the term that you've used a couple of times in your hearing, are we specifically talking public hearing as defined in our statutes?
Yes.
So in one of your slides, you said communication between commissioners is okay. Outside of a public hearing?
Yeah, if a public hearing is open, the rule 181 doesn't prevent you from speaking to another commission member about it. Now, if that conversation is merely a conduit to get outside information in, then that becomes a problem. But there's no prohibition on you talking to a member about it during the public hearing.
Yeah, that was my
or talking to staff for that matter.
Yeah, during the public hearing.
During the public hearing.
Outside the public hearing is a no-no.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. What are prohibited communications? Private emails or texts count. They're not just face-to-face or one-on-one discussions with applicants or opponents. And that includes the quote-unquote neighbors. A neighbor stopped me in the store and said, that's really where a lot of the trouble comes in some of these cases that I've read is, your lay people on boards and commissions in towns in which you live. You're going to see people who know you, who know you're on the commission. And that's where you've got to be careful when there's a pending hearing. Please, for the love of all that's good, do not accept documents emailed to you or hand delivered to you after a hearing is closed. Just the acceptance of those hearings, those documents could create trouble for us and potentially invalidate a decision. So the practical question is, someone emails me something, just immediately forward it to Jamie and or I and say, this was sent to me, I'm not opening it. And that'll be enough. Just that will be enough for us to sort of create a record that which we would do at the next hearing or the next meeting, that this communication came in, that it wasn't reviewed, and it will be ignored for purposes of our decision. Okay. All right. The post-hearing sort of exception for staff. Connecticut courts, the case law is actually pretty clear that if an expert or a staff report comes in post-hearing, but it's based on facts and evidence that's presented at the hearing, that's okay. You can accept that and that can become part of the record of the evidence that you can base your decision upon. So that doesn't necessarily invalidate the decision. Site visits. Commissioners are permitted to visit a site. Observations have to be disclosed on the record. Parties have to have a chance to respond. In this, for example, in the case that you're talking about now, the business park case, that site visit will be outside a public hearing. And so technically, you wouldn't necessarily have to disclose what you saw on the site visit, but generally speaking, you do, which is a good thing. I mean, that's your sort of practice. That's the point of the site visit. But it's important to disclose that only out of a sense of fairness. And I think, frankly, what we just saw a minute ago was that this is probably going to be, if not contested, there are going to be two sides to that question on that particular matter. So we want to be especially careful around that.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, this is Commissioner Murski. I can't probably see all of us. I apologize. I just had a question about site visits. I've been on some, but less than some of the commissioners here. It would be helpful to me to understand what questions you can ask, because I know when I was a brand new commissioner, I didn't have a full understanding of that. And I'm not talking about like having discussion about the merits of applications. It's just if you go to a site visit, for example, something you may be looking at may not be clear, and to what extent you can ask those questions. I think we have some flexibility, but I think there is actually a limit, and it would be helpful to understand that a little bit. If you can explain, I don't know if that's a fair question.
Yeah, it's a difficult question because these are very fact specific. But let's say if the site visit happens outside a public hearing, then you pretty much have free reign to ask and receive any information that you want, because you're not in the hearing stage, right? There's no record being established. What you choose to talk about during a public hearing will be based on those conversations. But if you're doing a site visit in the midst of a public hearing, any question you ask that solicits and receives information, that information should be disclosed on the record. I learned at the site visit that, or I asked X, just disclose it on the record so it becomes part of the basis for the decision. And people can't say that the decision ought to be invalidated because you made the decision on the basis of information that wasn't put into the record. Does that make sense as a general?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
This is
Cool.
Commissioner Boda. Can I build on that a little bit?
Sure.
I think because of some of the legalities, our practice in order to be safe is that to keep ourselves out of legal issues, we have a practice of only asking questions of orientation. So where is this? What is that? Where is this on the map? What is that on the map? That way, everything is at the meeting, and we don't end up in a position of having to go over bit by bit every piece of information that was exchanged at a site walk, which wasn't available to the full public. And Attorney Anaxkovich was speaking about, is speaking often about public hearings, but I think that as a commission, we do our best to treat all of our meetings with the same gravity as a public hearing, even when we're not in a public hearing, because the public hearing has a higher level of scrutiny, but we try to kind of still follow those same practices and legal requirements, just so that in the event that someone files suit, we have our I's dotted and our T's crossed. And that, I think, has served us well historically.
Jamie,
I think that's, yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
in the wetland agent, I think what Commissioner Boda said is very accurate of our practice. I think another thing to keep in mind is that we don't record, by the nature of just walking around a site, we don't record the site walks, so there's no audio of what was asked. So if you ask a substantive question in the site visit that isn't asked back at a regular meeting, that's not going to be part of the record should there be any sort of challenge to that decision.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I agree that in my experience of your commission, you've had very few problems because generally speaking, you practice the same way inside and outside a public hearing. And that's great for a guy like me. Keeps you out of trouble. So that said, not every mistake that you make will invalidate a decision. There is a harmless error doctrine that goes with the ex parte communication rules. An error is harmless if it didn't actually hurt a party's rights. Hurt a party's rights I'm really tweaking this thing. I need a clicker like I'm in class. I'm not used to doing it on the computer. If it doesn't actually impact the outcome of the case, then it's harmless. But even those mistakes have consequences. If there's an improper ex parte contact or another procedural mistake occurs, the court assumes that it prejudices the outcome. So this is the problem. This is the burden shifting issue, right? All right, so I made a mistake. I'm really sorry. It didn't impact the outcome. The court pushes the burden to us to prove that it didn't. So we've got to carry that burden. And then I've got to be able to show somehow, or we have to be able to show somehow that that it was actually harmless. Of course, we're going to say it was harmless. We're going to have to show evidence that it was. That's very difficult, right? Proving a negative is a very difficult thing. So proving that it didn't have an effect is not super easy. So it's not clear sailing, even if you make a mistake. So don't make a mistake. All right. So here's a hypothetical. We'll close it with a hypothetical. The Wetlands Commission holds a public hearing on an applicant. You're going to tell me who wins. An application on a public hearing to construct a single-family home and a driveway on a lot off Stony Creek Road with this is truly a hypothetical. I'm just making stuff up. With regulated activities involving a wetland buffer disturbance and a proposed stormwater management system. Over a period of 2 nights, you have, wouldn't that be great if your hearings were only 2 nights long? Over a period of 2 nights, the commission hears testimony from the applicant's wetland scientist, who states there's no significant impact. Here's also concerns from neighbors about drainage runoff and proximity to a seasonal watercourse, and comments from the town's wetlands agent summarizing the application, and the hearing's closed. Okay, easy peasy. Post-hearing, 3 days later, after the hearing is closed, a neighbor emails 2 commissioners attaching videos of flooding after a recent storm. This never happened, right? Claiming, quote, the property already drains onto my land and this project will just make it worse, close quote. Separately, the wetlands agent contacts the applicant's engineer asking whether the drainage system can be redesigned to increase retention. The engineer responds with a revised drainage calculation and a modified site plan. The wetlands agent reviews it and summarizes the changes verbally to the commission during deliberations. At the next meeting, the commission discusses flooding concerns and updated drainage information. The commission then votes to deny the application, citing, quote, inadequate stormwater controls and, quote, risk of adverse wetland impact. There was no reopening of the hearing, and no disclosure of the neighbor email was made. Were you going to win this case?
We would never.
We keep us on.
I had to make it easy just because I was going to be at the end of the agenda. But there are 2 problems. Can you identify the 2 problems? There are actually 2 ex parte communication problems.
Yeah. And so
After the hearing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, all of this occurred after the hearing was closed. I didn't see anywhere, at least I didn't think I didn't see anywhere, where the applicant had an opportunity to put evidence on the record. And so clearly this is one-sided.
Yeah, so you have one ex parte communication problem, which is the emails to the commissioners with the videos, right? That's just like right out of the box, like 100%, right? But then the staff person who reaches out to the scientist and gets a modified site plan, among other things, right? Which is then used as a basis for the decision, right? But right, is totally a problem as well. Now, nested within that, though, is a two-step process. There was no problem with the staff person reviewing the application, right? It was the use of the subsequent communicated information that never got the opportunity to be heard publicly and countered. So that would be the problem. So the likely court outcome, you're absolutely right. There was an improper ex parte communication. The neighbor email and the staff mediated the new evidence. That there therefore would be a presumption of prejudice, right? We'd say, oh, it was harmless. We would have done this anyway, and the judge would say, prove it, right? We can't rebut it because we've got no basis for rebutting it, because the evidence was new, not cumulative. It went to the core issue, which is the impact on the wetlands. The applicant had no opportunity to respond and revise, and the commission relied on it in its reasoning. So we lose, and that's a huge problem. The best way for me to summarize this is that a defensible decision for the commission is one where every single fact that mattered in determining your outcome or your vote was tested in public. Like no secret information. That's pretty much the best practice. And that all right. So I got some takeaways, right? Always build and decide based on a strong record that has objective evidence. You know that, but sometimes we in practice sort of don't do as good a job as because we get tired and it's late, and that can become a real problem. Anytime there's new information that appears, just reopen it or state for the record that new information has come in and we're going to ignore it for purposes of our decision. Both of those are completely legitimate. Now, I don't know that you can unring the bell, so saying you ignore it still has some exposure for us, but it's at least better than just not stating it. Remember that staff are advisors and not information conduits for third parties. Whenever you have a doubt, disclose it. I got an email from X, or so and so stopped me in the grocery store, or right. Pause, meaning let's just stop here and decide: do we want to make a motion to reopen the hearing? Do we want to think about this? Do we want to slow the process down? And then, if you're really in doubt, ask for counsel. Have Jamie and I look at it, so that we go in with our eyes open.
This is Commissioner Armstrong. Can I just a couple
Mm.
questions for you on
Sure.
this, the new info in your hypothetical? So
Mhm.
you get the neighbor email, and
Yeah.
you decide that he's crazy and you trash it.
Well, I didn't say he was crazy, but
Is that acceptable, or do you need to disclose it to the rest of the commission?
I would 100% disclose it to the rest of the commission.
Okay,
Because-
good. So now when you
Yeah.
get to your part about you decide to ignore it or use it, how
Yeah.
do you make that decision?
I think when you do it in conversation with us, I think we have to look at what it was, what the circumstances were. For instance, was it an email that had an attachment that you never opened? And we can prove that. I can prove that you
Right.
never opened
I
it.
mean,
Right?
as far as deciding to use it or ignore it, is that a meeting of the commission then? Do you need the majority of the commission to agree that we're
Yeah.
going to ignore it?
I think you have to have a conversation with the commission on the record about whether you want to, what the nature of the information is and whether you want to reopen or not.
Right. And would that conversation be on Zoom on a public? It would be a
I
public
think it has to be a public. Yeah, I think it has to be a public conversation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because then that would provide the opportunity for if the conversation seemed to be going, we're not going to reopen, the other
Right.
side would have the opportunity to rant and rave and scream and yell, but that's what the law requires. I mean, not the ranting and raving, but you know what I'm saying.
So
Okay,
this
good.
is Commissioner Boda to clarify. I am, at the grocery store. The public hearing has closed, and I'm approached by somebody who just walks up and is like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yo, you can't talk to me about that. But I can't, like you said, I can't unring the bell. I've heard it. I'm like, I can't talk to you about this, but they've already want in my ear faster than I could have said no, because I'm not
Right.
a sociopath. And so, but the public hearing has closed,
Yeah.
and I come back and I say to the commission, look, somebody just walked up to me. I don't plan on doing anything with this information. Are we as a commission, like, do we then say, okay, we're going to open that public hearing. I'm going to share what they said. We're not going to do anything with that information. Let's close the public hearing, or like,
No, yeah,
I mean,
no,
it's a
I
super
don't.
weird, like,
Yeah,
hypothetical,
that
but
is no, but it's it is super weird. But yeah, I can see it. Like I can see it happen in the grocery store. Uh, no, I don't think in that on that set of facts, I would suggest you reopen. What I would say is this happened. I was approached. I'm ignoring what I heard.
yeah.
It's not going to become the basis of just like we say, I can put aside I happen to be, sometimes there's conflicts where you're going to say, hey, look, I live in that neighborhood. Like I tend to be a recuse sort of person just to be safe. But you could have easily said earlier tonight that, you like the idea of a trail there.
Yeah.
You've spoken, but I feel like I can put that aside and assess this applicant. We take people at their word on those things. So I would say in your situation, I'd probably advise you that was safe to just simply say, hey, listen,
Like,
this
somebody
person
said something to me, but
uh,
I'm not, for me, that's not a factor for consideration. So I'm
right.
putting it on the record, but it's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jamie
Yeah.
Frederick in the wetland agent. I would probably suggest, and Bill, correct you if you think differently, but if you're a commissioner and you've received an email that you think is ex parte communication, send it to staff first, so that way we can assess it. Don't send it out to everyone, because then we might not only be down one commissioner, we
Yeah.
might be down all the commissioners.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah. And I
Well, and we
totally
don't
agree with that.
send emails to each other, right,
Well, there,
Jamie?
Yeah, generally speaking. I mean, maybe attendance,
Attendance, yes.
Yeah,
but
you
we
shouldn't
don't-
be asking, if you have a question on an application, send it to staff. We'll make it part of the record. And or make sure that the applicant is aware that that question has been raised. But we don't want to have communications and discussions outside of the meeting.
Attorney Anaskovich, we don't even allow 4 people in a car.
there you go. That's what I'm talking about. It's funny that you say that, because I was just thinking, I wonder how they get to the site visits.
Yeah, even with like a training, we don't. Yeah, there's no quorum allowed in a commute.
Good. Yeah, I know yeah, you guys are lucky to have some people who've been here for a while. They know their way around. So I don't lose any sleep about the Wetlands Commission. That's for sure. All right, cool. Other questions?
One other, Attorney Anaskovich, Commissioner Basserman, is there uniformity across the municipal boards in town regarding what information is posted for each member of a municipal board? Emails, telephone numbers, etc. Is there a uniform policy so that in some respect you restrict the access?
Jamie Frederick in the wetland agent. I'm going to go ahead and say no, there isn't.
Yeah, I don't think there's a uniform. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of information is available on the town website. I know that generally speaking, the town clerk maintains that information, or the town clerk's office
Yeah.
does, and they like to have the information available. I usually ask new commissioners if they want their email up there or not because it can cause problems. And then if somebody picks up the phone and calls you, you have the ability to say, "Oh, sorry, no," but you don't really have that ability when an email comes into your inbox. But
I know a lot of members also of certain. To answer your question, I agree with Jamie. I don't think there's a uniform rule. I think generally speaking, where I've wanted to contact somebody, I've just gone to the website and there's a lot of information there on like people's addresses and their phone numbers. You could choose not to have. I think you could choose not to have that particular email disclosed, and a lot of members create emails for governmental purposes, like that's the email that's publicized, and that seems to work for folks as well.
This is Commissioner Mirsky. This might be overthinking a question, but in the example that Commissioner Boda brought up, which is a very real example, like you mentioned, especially in a community like this, do we have some obligation? I guess the answer is no, but I don't feel comfortable with like if someone came to me and I said someone said whatever they said and I'm going to disregard it. I feel like I'd have some sort of obligation to disclose as much information. Like if I knew the person's name, do I then? I mean, because we may not. Some of us haven't been here as long as others, and if I knew who the person was, would I have to mention as person X approached me? I don't think so. I'm just okay.
No,
I don't know because
no,
because what if
and I
two
wouldn't
people
do that.
approach or three people? I don't think so either. But like,
Yeah.
if I was approached by three different people, do I just say I was approached by three different people if it was highly contentious and I'm disregarding all of it, and that would be sufficient?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the individual that creates the ex parte problem; it's the information that creates the problem. And I would suggest that you not disclose the name for for the same reasons. It's a small town. It's well, it's not small, not as small as it used to be. Put it that way.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else?
Cool. Okay.
That was helpful.
Thanks.
Hopefully,
Hope it was.
hopefully we won't need to test it.
Yeah.
I hope so.
All right, we're into the executive session now. Do I have to close the regular agenda here, Jamie? How does this work? We haven't done many of these.
You
You're
have to.
muted. You're muted.
sorry, I'm muted. Yeah, let me just create a breakout room real quick.
Well, wait. Before you do the breakout room,
Yep.
somebody needs to move that you go into executive session, and there needs to be a 2/3 vote to move us. You, Peter, Mr. Chairman, you also have to identify who will be invited into the executive session by name. So this should be easy because there's not a lot of us. Technically speaking, you're allowed to, but you don't have to have staff involved. I tend to put staff in or recommend that you put staff in, but that's up to you guys.
Is that part of the motion? The people?
Yeah. Well, no, actually, the motion just is to go in, and then Peter will just say, we're inviting in all the members plus, in this case, if you choose Jamie and Olivia.
This is Commissioner Boda. I'll make a motion that we go into executive session.
And in the executive session, I guess we'd like to invite Commissioner Begeman, Commissioner Armstrong.
We need a second. We need a second.
Oh, we need a second. I'll second that motion. I'd like to invite into that session Commissioner Begeman, Commissioner
Aye.
Armstrong. Yeah, you don't have to say I'm just inviting you in. Commissioner Mirsky, Commissioner Sotomayor, Commissioner Boda, Attorney Yanukovych, and staff members Sandberg and Frederick. What do we do with BCTV
Howard.
here?
So
Commissioner
on.
Howard.
Yeah, I just saw BCTV.
so
we cut that off or?
Howard, yep, so 1 minute. So also Commissioner Howard.
Mr. Armstrong.
I think we need to vote on the motion.
On the invite?
On the motion. There was no vote on the motion.
Okay, we're going to do the roll call vote on the motion to go into executive session. Commissioner Begeman?
Commissioner Beglin, aye.
Commissioner Armstrong,
Commissioner Armstrong, aye.
Commissioner Sotomayor,
Commissioner Sotomayor, aye.
Commissioner Mursky,
Commissioner Mersky, aye.
Commissioner Boda,
Commissioner Boda, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. All right. Now, what happens with BCTV here?
All right, so I'm gonna create a breakout room.
I'm gonna pause the recording now. Is that okay?
It's fine.
I guess yes.
And then I have to assign everybody, so just bear with me for a
I
minute.
give you, yeah.
Yeah, she's going to put us into a breakout room and not invite BCTV, which will create the executive session.
All right, did everyone get an invite?
No.
Not yet.
No.
Oh, open the room.
There we go.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Yes. I think we can adjourn. Anybody want to make that motion?
Motion to adjourn.
In the second.
Happy Earth Day, everybody.
Second.
Happy
Yeah.
Earth Day, yeah.
That's right. Happy Earth Day.
Good night, all.
And
Night.
9/11, not so bad. Good night.
Good night.